Hey guys, welcome back to Top 10 Nerd. I'm your host Kelly Pally, and today we're back at it again with a part 2 of our controversial superheroes list. While we covered a lot of the mainstream controversial heroes last time around, this time we're going to be dabbling a bit deeper into the obscure with some of the numbers on this list. But don't worry, there's still some fan favorites. So let's get into these scandalous heroes in all their glory. And remember, sometimes it's not the character's fault, it's the creative team behind them. Just a little thing to keep in mind. In at number 10 is All-Star Batman. Remember that time Batman called Robin retarded and was just generally the biggest asshole ever? Why yes, thanks Frank Miller. All-Star Batman and Robin's Bruce Wayne is likely one of the more gruesomely gritty versions of the Dark Knight in the history of the character. And makes sense, this is the Bruce Wayne that would later become the old man vigilante in Miller's classic Dark Knight Returns. But while age made him more complex, his younger self in All-Star was criticized for how brash he was, and was even censored after the fact. Up next, number 9 is Madame Fatal. A superhero that existed during the Golden Age, Madame Fatal was a male hero who dressed up as an old woman, aka the first cross-dressing hero, prior to the Red Tornado. While at the time it was perfectly fine to have a character that nowadays would be seen as quite politically incorrect, the character was later critiqued for being thinly disguised as homosexual. Plus, there was also the fact that he actually didn't have any real powers. So you can see why DC would later decide to ditch the character, with only a handful of small appearances between 1956 and 2012, most of those being slight references in other characters' dialogue. In at number 8 is Marcus Immortus. Alright, so if you're unfamiliar with this character, here's the simple breakdown. While trapped in limbo, Marcus Immortus reaches out to Carol Danvers, rapes her via his emotion-altering powers, impregnates her with what would be the reincarnation of himself so that he can get back to Earth. And we're not talking a normal pregnancy here either. No, she gave birth days later. And after he was born, he almost immediately grew into his adult form. Also kinda weird. And then the two were still kinda lovers. So yeah, kinda strange and controversial. Now there's been some serious debate whether over or not this is actually rape that happened. But like, if you gotta ask, I mean, that should kinda answer that question for you. Regardless, that debate has made him one of the more controversial and questionable characters over the years. And at 7 is Wolverine. It's easy to see why Wolverine is a fan favorite, but there's been many a time where some critics have felt that he was a tad too controversial, from his excessive use of violence against his foes to pulling issues of his solo line because of ethnic slurs. So back in 1998, Brian K. Vaughan wrote the script for Wolverine 131, and a villain named Viper calls Sabretooth a racial slur that starts with a K. While it wasn't coming directly from Wolverine's mouth, but because it appeared in his series, the character was associated with racial slurs and got backlash because of it. Aside from that unfortunate circumstance, Logan has generally been associated with a ton of violence, as I mentioned earlier, at the time of his appearance being quite ruthless to the villains that he attacked. And he still gets a lot of flack about that today. The recent critically acclaimed Logan film got some heat for being perceived as too violent. That being said, it was super cool, and one of the best superhero films to date. And at number 6 is Bueno Excellente. A superhero sex offender? Yep, that's Bueno Excellente. He's a hero who fights crime with the powers of perversion. If that sounds backwards to you, well, yes, you're right, that's not actually how you fight crime. But to be fair, the character was satire, part of a tongue-in-cheek team called Section 8. But let's be honest, when Bueno starts getting pervy and there's some implied sodomy going on, I can see why readers would feel like he's a little too extra. And at number 5 is Superior Spider-Man. Now we've talked a bit about the Superior Spider-Man story arc in a few of our other lists, but if you don't know about it, this is when Otto Octavius, aka Dr. Ock, switches bodies with Peter Parker when he's dying of a terminal disease. So yeah, people were pissed because he became Spider-Man, and although he made some arguably cool adjustments to the Spidey suit, people were not cool with the idea that Peter was going to die and one of his biggest foes was taking over his mantle. Luckily it didn't stay that way, but still caused quite the stir amongst readers. And at number 4 is Dick Grayson, as the Joker in Dark Knight Strikes Again. In Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Strikes Again, we get to see what our number 8 All-Star Batman turned his Robin into. So Grayson had been fired by Bruce years and years prior to his appearance in The Dark Knight Strikes Again, and when he does reappear, he's taken up the mantle of the Joker, which was something that didn't really bode well with a lot of fans. Also, disproportionate forearms, just saying. And at number 3 is Rorschach. Rorschach has been criticized for being excessively violent in his approach to defeating criminals, in the fictional world of Watchmen and in the real world too. While he was dialed down a bit for the 2009 Watchmen film, his moral absolutism helped make him a fan favorite, and has won the character many a title, ranking pretty high on multiple greatest comic book character lists, and to be fair, he deserves it. But the controversy that comes from Rorschach isn't a fault of his own. It's been with how some fans perpetuate him as a hero, rather than understanding Alan Moore's deconstruction and commentary of the superhero genre, and how his character's merciless follow his own law perspective is very much a part of that commentary. I don't know, what do you guys think? Do you see Rorschach as more of a hero than a vigilante? Let us know in those comments below. And our number 2 spot is Tarantula. Speaking of Dick Grayson, remember that one time he got raped by his mentee who was in love with him, but it was like totally unrequited? Yeah. That's a storyline we probably won't see pop up anytime in the future. Anyway, if you were familiar with it, this Tarantula was the second to take up the mantle, Catalina Flores, who first appeared in Nightwing 71 back in 2002. Grayson as Nightwing mentored her, and after suffering a defeat from a foe along with a whole lot of other trauma we won't get into, she decides to take advantage of his weakened state, even though he tells her to stop. Yeah. Not cool. And finally, in at number 1 is Hooded Justice. From Watchmen, Hooded Justice is one of the Minutemen, the first team of vigilantes to appear in Watchmen, and Hooded Justice is the very first masked vigilante. While it's implied in the original text that Hooded Justice is circus strongman Rolf Mueller, infamous for sexually abusing and killing children, before Watchmen, Minutemen retconned that, implying that he was Mueller's son, or ward, potentially being a victim of Mueller's abuse. Aside from being a controversial character in the Watchmen narrative, his representation in Before Watchmen has been controversial too, mainly due to the retcons his character has received. While he disappeared in the original text, it was retconned in Before Watchmen that the character was killed by Hollis Mason, when the comedian made Hollis believe that Hooded Justice was Mueller, causing Mason to snap his neck. That being said, Darwyn Cooke did actually do a pretty good job on that line, despite Before Watchmen kind of just being a major cash cow. Anyway, there we have it, friends. What characters do you think are controversial that haven't made our lists? Let us know in those comments below. And if you'd like us to do any other lists, maybe something on Hooded Justice or the Minutemen, I mean, I know I would love to. Let us know in those comments too. But for now, I'm Kelly Pally for Top 10 Nerd, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.